Razavani for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. With me on Zoom today, I've got Team Dillian White, CEO of Black Box Management, Dean White. Dean, is it too late to say Happy New Year?
Listen, you can do what you want. It's still January, man. Happy New Year, man. You know what I'm saying?
How are you? How are things? How's the family?
Yeah, everyone's good, man. All is good. We're just here, just trotting on in these treacherous times. How about yourself?
Not too bad. All is well. All is well on my side. Dean, we had a kind of a positive end to the year last year. We saw Anthony Joshua fight Kubrat Pulev. And when I say positive, I'm meaning seeing fans back in stadiums. We saw 1,000 fans. It seemed like it was 10,000 fans. They were quite loud.
Amazing in there.
Who would have thought come January, we're back to square one. Well, not even square one, I think even in a worse off position. Has it kind of taken you back and thinking like, when is this going to go away? When are we going to go back to normality?
No, absolutely. I think it was even before. I think it was the end of, it was still last year when they actually cancelled and said they're, like the British Boxing Board have ceased fighting for January, or I'm not 100%, I'm sure it was the end of, and that was it, who was fighting again? It was Josh Kelly and Evans, what's his name?
Abanesian.
Yeah, Avanesian, the dreaded fight that's been cancelled about 3 or 4 times, you know what I mean? That's got a curse on it, that fight. So, yeah, it was a bit surprising because, look, I know they're saying about, obviously, what's going on, new strain, new variant, all that jazz. But, I mean, across the world, the other people are still going on. They said elite sports can go on, football's still going on, but then they stopped the boxing, which was a little bit, bizarre. And if, obviously, if they said, we'll stop the fans part and just do it behind closed doors again. Really, I felt like that's what they should have just done instead of closing boxing, period. Because, the government already, if you believe the statistics they say or whatever, whichever way you choose to mix it, they say 88% of the people who are older people who are more prone to getting it or not getting it or dying from it as such, between 70 and 90. Those are the people who move most so we need to protect the vulnerable, old, and the NHS. So really, maybe because of the staff factor, maybe the NHS, maybe, they're thinking, well, we don't want to put them under pressure. If they're under pressure there, we're not going to be able to get them into the arena to assist us with the boxing, which I'm sure they could because, we're talking about the whole of the UK. I'm sure there's people that, going to have time to work on different jobs. But hey, going back, being in that arena on that night was a great night. It was exciting, and it literally brought man back. Like even though, like you said, them thousands seemed like 10,000, and it was just, it was electrifying. And then for it to be pulled right under our feet again, because we worked so hard the whole year, no fans. Joshua and Pulev managed to secure fans, and then we're thinking, all right, we're going to get some assembly of normalness again, and here we are again with no clue, no further to understanding where we're going to be anytime soon. So it's looking like if we listen to maybe certain papers, certain articles you see out there, they've extended till July the 17th, pubs, restaurants and stuff like that. They potentially can stay closed until that date. They probably were open before that because I'm sure, they'll do something. Maybe they're saying by March, they'll start to open up a little bit. I don't know. Listen, it's just confusing. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend. Listen, this thing is one of them things. If it's airborne, as they say, they're never going to get it under control because as soon as you open back up, however you look at this, people are going to be active. People are going to be moving around and mobile. People are going to catch it. They're saying, they're putting out the vaccine now. 5.5 million people have taken this, and that's not going to stop them contracting the virus. So I'm just confused why we're doing all this lockdown. It's just baffling because if you're saying we're going to do this to safeguard people, but they still can catch the virus after taking the vaccine, what was the point of the lockdown in the first place? So it's affected sports, businesses, people's mental health. Many things have been affected. People with cancer, diabetes, whatever you think it is. But me as a boxing fan, and obviously the fans on this channel, obviously we're looking at the health of others, and we are looking at being fans and what we want to see, and we want to get back to some normally. And the answer is I don't even know when things are going to get back to normal ever. As these government people across the world keep saying new normal. So just prepare for more darkness, doom and gloom, sadness. And, you just got to try and keep your mind mentally strong and physically strong as possible. Trying to, do your walks, get some sunlight, whatever it is out there, even if it's gloomy, get fresh air and try and keep yourself in the right frame of mind, because it is a hard time for a lot of people. And it's really sad to see what's happening across the world. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and well said at the end as well about people with mental health issues. Certainly reach out if you're struggling. There's many authorities out there that you can call and you can speak to people if you are struggling. On a bit of a positive though, Dean, boxing is back. Eddie Hearn's announced 5 shows. MTK have announced a couple of shows. Frank Warren has announced a show. So boxing is back. The biggest fight of all that, the date is 6th of March. Dillian Whyte's rematch against Alexander Povetkin. Dill better than most people. After his loss, which was a shocking loss in August, Dill wanted to get straight back in November. Povetkin then had some issues with COVID. It got delayed till January. And then there were potential talks that he might not fight Povetkin next because Povetkin doesn't seem like he's going to be ready anytime soon. And Dillian didn't want to waste time and he wanted to move on. Povetkin is back. And by the time they get back in the ring, it's going to be close to 7 months. Do you feel like that is a hidden blessing in disguise for Dillian because it's given him more time to prepare, mentally be in the best possible shape, because this fight is almost do or die?
Yeah, it's a real slippery slope, a real slippery slope. It is some form of a make or break when you look at it. The line is very thin, obviously the longer time he has, having the coaches which he had at the time, which were new. Then there's another new addition, which I'm sure we'll catch on later. All of this gelling together as a team, that added time is obviously going to help that and work in their favor. But yet again, it's still going to work in Povetkin's favor because he took quite a beating in that fight. Obviously, being the older guy at 41, the time he actually got what he needed. He was never probably going to fight in November. He was never going to fight in January. He had his tent and his pitch set out. But obviously, everyone just probably didn't know it. And obviously, he got what he wanted because I think from last year, he said he wanted to fight around March, April. So he got exactly what he wanted. So now the rematch is there. And, Dill's got it all to do. It's a real mega mountain, I hear people talking about other fights down the line. This is the only fight that, you've got to concentrate on because, in the devastating fashion he lost last time. So now he's been working. He's been working. He's took his licks. He's took his losses as a man, and he just got to crack on. And come March the 6th, we'll see. Like obviously with the extra time he's had with his coaches, if everything's gelled and it comes right. But he had the beating of Povetkin on the night, and we never saw the monstrous Dill we normally see. When he gets people hurt, he actually kind of steps on the gas and goes for the kill. Yeah, again, it's a bit of experience, like you learn. And sometimes you can't just rush in either because, wounded animals lash out and, if you get caught in that kind of sense, you can get hurt also. But, I mean, look, I'm sure he's going to have different stools set out in there. Yet again, the old fox Povetkin has the same. He's a world-class opponent in terms of being a former world champion, Olympian, and that pedigree's there. And he sets traps. Sometimes people don't understand what he's actually doing because sometimes it comes across a little bit crudy, but that's probably part of his game plan to let you, fall into a false sense of security. But look, on March the 6th, what I anticipate is a hell of a fight and, a win, whatever way it comes. But knowing Dill, he's going to want to seek redemption and revenge in a good fashion. But look, if it comes via win, it's that. But I probably see in that fight you saw he was tired. His corner was saying, look, we're going to give you one last chance. We're about to pull you out. You're taking a bit too much beating. So I think if it goes past 6, 7, I think he's going to be it will look like he's going to slow down even more personally. But then if Dill steps on the gas early again, and when he hits him with some of those shots, and he can put on the pressure and try and get him up, but we'll have to see, because look, he can pull shots out like he did in the first match. You know what I mean? So I'm sure that'll be there. But then at the same time, I feel like Povetkin's not going to say, "Oh, I'm going to come out and try and continue doing the same thing," because obviously it's like, they're going to be looking for that. So he's going to have to try and do something else, which he's capable of doing, because obviously he's not just a one-trick pony. He's a guy that has probably got the best highlight reel knockout of any heavyweight of recent times. They used to call him, the White Mike Tyson. So listen, man, look, it's a mega fight. And if we are blessed enough, God willing, there might be crowd, but that would be an amazing, amazing start to the year if we could get that. So fans could be in there and show their support and, just get behind, Dill. Sometimes that extra push and shout and screaming by the fans and the hair standing up on the back of your neck, that enthralling feeling, that feeling of ecstasy, and even the fans will enjoy it. But let's see. Look, we've got a little way to go. Over the next few months, we're going to see they're going to continue doing what they're doing, and we'll literally know if we're going to come out. But I mean, 3 months is a hell of a long time to keep a country on lockdown, and it's quite weird because they're saying the cases are still rising, but we're all locked down. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's happening. But hey, let's hope that is the case, that we can get the fans in there and they can enjoy a great night of boxing. And let's, Dill's going to go out there and put on a great performance and bring it back home.
Dean, we're potentially just under or just over 6 weeks away from fight night. We know the chances of having crowds back in the UK might be difficult, but there has been some noise about potentially the fight going abroad. No announcements have been made yet. Gibraltar has been named.
I heard that.
Monaco as well. Is there anything else that that you can kind of tell us today, or potentially whether it might or might not go abroad?
No, not really, but it's the same. I've heard the same things as yourself. I don't believe there's any update just as yet. Like you said, there's quite a few weeks out, and it's quite a long time in this COVID business, because things change, quite rapidly sometimes. You know what I mean? We're gonna find out, because obviously I'm sure old Bojo's got a few tricks up his sleeves, and he's gonna announce some other things shortly. So we'll start to see. But you know what? I think some of the things he's doing now, he should have done last year. You know what I mean? We've wasted a whole year with some of the stuff what he's doing now, and I think he could have done from last year. So let's see what happens, because I feel like by the time another month goes by, I think it will give us a clearer indication on how the government plan to move forward. And we might know if they're going to say, well, they're going to open back up the economy, let people out a little bit, move us down in the tier system, and then that would indicate if we'd be allowed crowds back. Because if they put us into tier 3, I'm sure you'd be able to allow crowds back. But yeah, a lot of talk has been for abroad. We just have to wait and see in another few weeks yet again. I'm sure that'll become much clearer.
You mentioned earlier he's brought in another coaching trainer into the team in Harold Knight. Those who don't know, Harold Knight obviously was an ex-professional boxer himself, and most notably known as being part of Emmanuel Stewart's team when training Lennox Lewis. How did this link up happen?
You know what? I think I'm not totally sure, but I think he mentioned a little while about that they was probably going to look at seeing if there's any more experience and that you could add different elements to the team, because obviously with boxing a good team is always good. As you look at Joshua's team, there's quite a few different coaches and they probably bring different elements. So I think this was spoken about while potentially finding someone in the USA to add to the team. I think it was one of the other team members, I think, that kind of brought Harold forward. I'm not 100% sure how it went. Kind of just having a conversation with one of the management yesterday, I think that was kind of, what he was saying. But it seems like a good addition. And obviously they kept it on the low because you know, this game in boxing, sometimes you work with people and then some things don't work out, and then it's just not necessary to tell people that, you know what I mean? Once you start gelling and you think, well, this is going to become permanent, then, you know, it's possibly time to let the world know. Obviously, we've got an additional member to the team and so on. But yeah, no, look, he's got a wealth of experience, you know. Harold the Shadow Knight, you know. He's a former Lennox team member, training and doing stuff, you know, and I'm sure he was pivotal at the time in whatever he was doing with Lennox. So, you know, let's see. We're only going to see if everything gels on the night, because that's going to be their first one together. And then obviously you've got Xavier, who's the head coach. So as long as, you know, they're both on the same hymn sheet and on the same page, I expect, you know, because Dill's quite clever anyway, you know what I mean? So he'll be smart enough to, you know, take certain bits and kind of be able to put them in his mind and understand and kind of figure it out. But yeah, I'm sure we'll see, man, if it's a good addition. But I mean, with all that experience he's had, I think that'd be good. And you can't talk about, for me, Lennox is arguably probably one of the best British fighters we've actually had, a heavyweight, you know what I mean? Listen, his skill, his jab was immense, his uppercut was phenomenal. Listen, he was the epitome of one of the greatest, you know. He doesn't get the accolades he deserves, you know. So let's see, it's interesting.
I'll end on this finally for Dillian and Povetkin, but would you say this is must win for Dillian?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a must win. It's very, very very crucial that he wins if he wants to go on and compete with the rest of the elite boys at the top of the tree, you know. And as a team, we're more than confident and, you know, in his ability to go on and do what he needs to do. Look, it's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen, as we know, you know what I mean? Obviously, the only thing I'd say, a lot of people was writing off Povetkin, and I think I did an interview with yourself the day before. Was it yourself I did it with? Mm-hmm. And I said, look, you know, him doing that feint and doing that uppercut is the most concerning thing. And that was the same shot he done, and it's so crazy. And you know, I think people writ him off, but they shouldn't have, because look, if you see how he performed against Joshua, obviously this is the unified champion of the world. He was putting a good bit of work on Joshua, blood up his nose and putting the smoke in there. And Joshua showed his pedigree and pulled out, you know, the power shots to, you know, get him out of there. But that fight was close and tinkering on a real upset at that time, because it was like he was bringing the smoke. And then when you further look at him fighting someone who I arguably think who's one of the dark horses in the heavyweight division in Michael Hunter, what a fight that was in Saudi with them two. Michael Hunter is on smoke. That he's a dark horse. You know what I mean? He's the man in the corner. People just saying, listen, there's no worth fighting this guy. He's fast, he's strong, he's durable, he's got pop, and he's got speed. Look, so what do you bring to the table? He doesn't bring nothing but misery. And, you know, he's in the who needs him club. So that fight as well was a draw. But yet again, that could have gone either way, because at the time, some of the time, Povetkin hit Myman and the ropes held him up. So I was looking at it like, if you looked at it, that ropes held him up. If they counted that, it would have probably been a win to Povetkin. You know what I mean? So you got to look at who he's been in there with and what he was doing when he was in there. Yet again, Dill was beating him more convincingly than both those guys and ended up getting knocked out. It's mad. You know what I mean? So this is the world of boxing, man. You can't take anything for granted. And that's what we must look at. A lot of people was writing up Povetkin saying he's old, he's a has-been, he's done. No, there was more in there. There was more in there. You know what I mean? And he showed that and he proved that on the night. And we got to give him credit for that. Dill took his losses, he licked his wounds, and he got straight back in there. And he was like, yo, listen, I made a mistake. I paid the ultimate price. We need to get back in there and do it again. And we got to give him credit, man, because, you know, this game is a tough sport. It's not everyone that can lick their wounds and come back like that, you know what I mean? Because those kind of stuff knocks people's confidence And some people don't normally come back from devastating losses like that. They take a little bit longer time out because they want to reflect on, if this is where they want to be. You know what I mean? Because obviously when you do make a lot of money in the sport, it is harder to keep getting up, proving yourself and putting it all on the line. So it's going to be interesting, you know what I mean? And I think the fans are still in for a good fight. And we're going to see, with the addition of Harold, if he's going to bring out something else in Dillian. So I think it's a good addition, man. Let's just watch it and see how it all turns out.
AJ Fury, Bob Arum's gone on record a couple of days ago and said we will be hoping to receive the first draft of the contract for this fight from Eddie Hearn. I think he said Tuesday, which is today. It looks like that fight is happening. The WBO have come out and have said, Usyk, Joyce, you can fight for the interim belt. There's a step aside deal there for Usyk. The WBO seems like they've cleared the path for AJ and Fury to fight for the undisputed title. Overall for boxing, is this good?
Well, look, it's a mega fight, and I'm sure a lot of people want to see it, As a boxing fan, you want to see this fight because you've got two Englishmen for all the belts on the line. History-defining fight, you know what I mean? So it's good. But I know the WBO's given their blessing, but at the same time, they've still got a little problem with Usyk, and they need to offer him a step-aside money. I'm hearing, obviously, he wants big cheese to step aside. He ain't playing about, old Usyk. You know what I'm saying? That money's going to go far in Ukraine. He ain't playing about. He wants that real cheese. And Eddie was saying, listen, he's asking for a bit too much, you know what I mean? So let's see. Look, at the end of the day, I think when you look at it, I think it's for the best interest of world boxing if they allow that fight to go on, and then potentially Joe Joyce and Usyk fight for maybe an interim title, and want the winner of that fights for that, the winner of that after the two fights they have, because they're probably going to have 2 or 3 years fights. They're going to be tied up for a long time, those boys, to be honest. You know what I mean? But as a boxing fan, these are the fights you want to see. You know what I mean? So let's see, man. I think it's a right step in the right direction. It's obviously a bit sad that Deontay Wilder's been pushed out of the way, because obviously he had a contract for a trilogy, and obviously I know that's was it in arbitration or something?
It was
with that. So if you've got a contract, really, rightly, that should be kind of honoured somewhat. But if you're talking if you're asking me purely as a boxing fan, as someone from the UK, of course, I would like to see the fight with AJ and Fury. And when all the dust settles and the smoke settles, let's see who's standing. You know what I mean?
Dean, I know you're a big MMA fan, and I'll end on this. On the weekend, we saw Conor McGregor come back after a considerable time out of the octagon. He's quite confident going in against Justin Poirier. He said 60 seconds all week, 60 seconds. But then he talked about, potentially he might want some extra time in the octagon just to get rid of a bit of rust. But he got absolutely, got knocked out completely by Poirier, and it shocked the whole UFC world. What did you make of the fight, and also where does McGregor go from here? Because there were talks about him and Pacquiao happening.
Do you know what? MMA is a very, very, very tough sport. All of those boys can, beat each other on any given night. But what you got to look at it was the wrong time to fight Dustin Poirier, because the thing is, if you watch his climb from his last defeat, he beat some solid guys. Like I couldn't even remember that he busted up Gagey like that. Gagey's solid, you get me? And he's fought some solid guys. I know Khabib, had a good fight of him, but I mean, he beat some solid guys coming up, and he was active. The thing is, you got to be smart. Conor weren't too smart. He's made a lot of money. He's done great for the sport of MMA. He's just done great for the sport in general, any sport, because he's brash, he's exciting, he's a little bit of a big mouth, he's loud, he's doing his thing, he's living the dream, you know what I mean? When you go into this sport, this is what it's about, you know what I mean? And he showed his humility side as well after, because I saw something online that he said to Dustin he would give him $500,000 to put to a charity. So he showed his other side, you know what I mean? He's a megastar making a lot of money, and he showed he took his loss really, really well, truth be told. But I felt like I think after the money he made, he was a bit lost. So he was partying and probably girls and whatever. I don't know. It's not. Don't take that for gospel. That I'm just saying what comes with the life of some of these people that maybe party and do shit, private jets, Rolls Royces, Dubai, wherever the hell he is, just living the best life you can. When you come from nothing and get to something, it is hard sometimes to stay on the path. There's very few of them that actually kind of keep that that lane. You know what I mean? So you get caught off guard. If I use the analogy of Lennox Lewis against Hassan Rahman, he was in, was it Ocean's 11 or one of them? Remember, he was in one of them movies. He was in a movie and he weren't taking the fight serious and went in there and get his ass licked down. He got topped down in the first fight. But that was because he was doing movie roles. He was training, but he was doing acting and wanted to be in a movie and whatever. But then the rematch, obviously, he said, you know what, I'm going to take this a little bit more serious. There was also talk on line that he got rid of his former training partners and certain his stablemates and coaching stuff. I don't know how true that was. I didn't really kind of dig into that. Maybe I will look. But I mean, look, I feel like it was an upset, but when I weighed it up before the fight, I had a feeling I was gonna. I chose on an upset because I felt like the time laid off, Dustin having trained his socks off, and just a man who's so hungry and has that desire, it was always possible. Conor has got that punching power, that unbelievable punching power for being that weight and that size. But, you know, Dustin Sauer is still them low kicks to the calves. You know what I mean? That's what really did it, because once he couldn't sit and load up his shots on the front foot, that fight it was on the cards anyway, kind of. He busted them legs up. You know what I mean? You saw even after when he with him and Dustin, you saw him in the corridor leaving. But look, he took his loss. He's right. He needs to come back. He needs to do the right thing. He needs to, you know, figure it out in himself. Obviously, emotions and stuff in the ring, he was quite calm. He seemed cool. But when he goes back now and reflects, watches the fight again, you know, he needs to get active. He needs to get back to the old Conor. Like he says, he needs to go and pick a little bit lower level opponent and see where he is, see where he's at, and see if he still wants it. You know what I mean? Even in the gym, you know, line up stuff in the gym and have sparring partners that's going to come and whoop your ass and try and push you to the absolute limit before you made all this money. The same thing you used to do, and try and see if that can bring you back to the level you once were. You know what I mean? But yeah, that big fight with Pacquiao being spoken about, but that is truly done and dusted probably, because them little memes that's going about, Pacquiao don't want. He's like, it's not even worth it because people are not going to buy into this. You know what I mean?
No,
so it's a shame.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, Dean. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time.
Thank you as always, man.
And yeah, we look forward to March 6th, which is 6 weeks away. March seems like a long time away, but it's not. 6 weeks, and time will fly by, and I'm sure we'll catch up closer to the fight.
All right. Take care, yeah.
IFL TV. Thank you very much.
Bless.